Hey there, comic friends and fiends. Rob here with you, and thought I would round out the 2020 year with my top 20 covers of 2020. Something a bunch of people are doing, I know, and they encouraged me to do one of my own, so here we are. So the caveat to all this, as we get into it, let me first set up the rules. First of all, for my top 20 covers of 2020, all covers had to have been released this 2020 year. Additionally, for them to be on my list, I had to have acquired them for my personal collection. So this means that there are probably a lot of great, amazing covers out there that didn't qualify to be on the list because they weren't covers that I acquired. So every single one of these is a cover that's in my personal collection. It is going to be obviously a little bit. At times I chase. It's going to be Marvel DC centric mostly, because I read mostly Marvel DC comics. I do read some independents, and there's at least one, as I recall, in this list, but again, it's limited to what I read and acquire for myself. And at the end, then I'm going to name my pick for my artist of the year. Um, so that set up the groundworks. As we get into this here, I hope that you'll like the video, the thumbs up button. Let me know if you thought. Leave a comment down below what you think about my list. Would these be ones that you would put on your list, or is there something that you think that maybe you added to your collection that you think should have been on here? Heck, you think I should have collected, or something that you saw me open earlier this year that you think should have made the list that didn't? I appreciate the feedback. Let's see what's going on with that. Also, take a quick moment to remind you at the end of the video to take a look at the link. Mystery boxes are still available, $65 mystery boxes. That is a shipped price, one slab, and 8 to 10 books inside that mystery box, guaranteed. Including at least a one signed ratio or exclusive book. So check them out. And then there is one 115 box remaining. Yeah, $115 box, which the higher level, if well supplies last. It might be gone by the time you watch this video. I don't know. Reach out to me. Details are down below. All right, so let's kick this off as we should here at the bottom of the list here. At the bottom of the top of the list. If it's the top 20. Anyways, so the number 20 spot on our list here is from King in Black. Number 1. This is the Natasha Bustos Stormbreakers 1 per store variant. Now, this might be a little bit of a cheating because it is a 1 per store. This is not a comic that everybody could easily necessarily go and get, but it is in my collection. It was released this year, and I had to put it on this list. It just was a beautiful, classic, simple cartoon comic. It wasn't trying to be super realistic. It wasn't trying to be all freaky, scary thing, but it was a pure just throwback Venom. Amazing cover that I just was very striking to me. So that's why this made the list here at number 20. At number 19 on the list here, we get the independent from Image Comics Adventure Man number 3, the cover by Terry and Rachel Dodson. This is the regular cover. Anybody could have picked this up. I well, the Adventure Man comic started off with a very high premise that I was very excited about, and ultimately was let down because it was once they got to the end of the miniseries. To me, it was like they had me wanting more because it just started and then all of a sudden it was over. I just thought it was kind of a bizarre, and maybe it is. Maybe it's meant to be almost like a pilot for a future. I don't know. But anyways, what I love about this cover is the way that it presents from the idea of a classic kind of pulpy Indiana Jonesy fantasy slash adventure slash whatever motif. These covers all did well. I thought that this one of the four covers was the one that spoke the most to me, and it really kind of dug it and kind of drew me into what's going on, to see what's going on inside the book itself. I mean, ultimately, that's what a cover is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to tease you a little bit about what's going on, maybe, or get you somehow entice you to sell you the book, ultimately. At number 18, a Spider-Man Noir series that goes out this year. I took number 3. Now, this wasn't my favorite Spider-Man Noir cover from a standpoint of just simply going like, oh wow, this cover is beautiful or anything else. But of them all, it was including all the ratio variants. This was the one that made the list because I thought again it showed an element of what we expect inside the book more so than almost any others. A lot of the others is just a Spider-Man that's all in black in a trench coat brooding on the side of a building somewhere. And that's all fine and dandy. I get that. But show me something else. And here we get to see the shocker of Spider-Man Noir. And we get to see a little steampunk-esque or more, how do we take a character and instead of make him just somehow magically electrical, let's give him some properties of Tesla coils and shock sticks and all this other stuff, very kind of steampunky, or probably steampunk's not the right word, Victorian electropunk. I don't know what the term is necessarily, but I just kind of dig the shocker aspect of this book and the way he stands out and portrays there's something different within this timeline. At number 17, I go with Punchline. This is the Kale New team variant. So Punchline, whether you like Punchline, you don't like Punchline, or you're open-minded for the future, I happen to be on the Punchline bandwagon. I wasn't at first. I have come around. I like the idea. I'm cautiously optimistic for where she goes in the future. But, so we had this release of Punchline coming out during Joker War. Then we get this one shot that kind of digs deeper into her origin rather than just simply the little snippet that we got in the Joker special, 80th anniversary special. So, of course, this is one of the few DC books that had a billion covers. DC doesn't quite do the variant train quite the same level that Marvel does the variant train with 800 billion store exclusives. But this book was one that we did see a billion practically, or we should say a Venom level of number of store exclusive covers. This was not a store exclusive cover, but rather a team variant. So there were a couple team variants where I think if a store bought a certain number of books, or a group of stores had gotten together, got a certain number of books, that they could get a lot of one of the team covers. And there was a Peach Momoko, and there was a Scale New, and I forget who the other one was. But when I saw this cover, this one with her throwing the knives at you, coming right off the book cover at you and everything else, just kind of really grabbed my attention more than any of the other covers. And this is one of my favorite. And I probably have 15 or 16 different Punchline -- 1 covers. And aside from the hand-drawn one of a kind sketch cover I have, this is without a doubt my favorite cover for the Punchlines. At number 16, The Rise of Ultraman #1, the Ed McGuinness 1 in 50 retailer incentive variant. Now, there was a lot of great covers for Ultraman, and again, Ultraman, I say again, you may not have seen it in a previous video I talked about Ultraman. I grew up, in my local area, there was an independent station back in the day, For those of you who are really young and too young to remember this, there used to be a thing called VHF and UHF. And the UHF channels were the independent channels, and they had all kinds of weird, crazy stuff on it. It was the second dial on your two dial TV, hence the origin of the expression, don't touch that dial. Anywho, I digress and don't want to feel old anymore. So let's go back to Ultraman. In my neighborhood, or my where I lived, one of the independent stations right about 3 o'clock in the afternoon after kids got home from school, ran a block of kids club shows, and they would show Ultraman and Johnny Sacco and his fighting robot and Space Giants and Battle of the Planets and all these Japanese import stuff, whether it be man in giant suit or animation or whatever, and they would play that, and I got super into it. So when Rise of Ultraman came out, I was super pumped, and Alex Ross cover was beautiful, and a lot of these other incentive covers were beautiful. But for some reason, when I saw this cover with Ultraman coming up off the screen, kind of an anime at the same time of view, this just sung to me, and I went multiple places trying to find a copy of this in order to get it at a price I was willing to pay. Because at one point, some of the places were trying to ask like exorbitant $150 or whatever for this 1 in 50 cover, which I was unwilling to pay. But amazing cover. Was super happy to add this to my collection. Rise of Ultraman. So that makes the list there. At number 15, the second King in Black #1 cover to make the list, Ji Hung Lee, Virgin Variant. What I love about this cover just kind of tells you everything about King in Black all at once, or at least portrays a lot of what the like. Here is this ominous being with a red sky behind, just signaling this is evil. It's coming. It's looking down on us, and like the stuff is about to hit the fan. And this is what this cover portrays to me beautifully. It's gorgeous. Ji Hung Lee knocks it out of the park. Love this cover. That's why it's at number 15. Coming in at 14, well, it was a matter of time before we got a Venom on the list. Venom was the title of a billion covers. It seems like every issue there are 40 or 50 variants, and it's very hard to keep it off the list. And in many cases, this one, just like this, Venom 28, the John Boy Mayer, this is a retailer exclusive. I think the Big Time Comics and its partners group had an A, a B, and a C. This is the A cover with the trade. The B was a Virgin variant of this, and then I think with orange background, and then the C cover was a gray background. I personally felt that this green and with the trade sung out the most. Now, I understand some people would find this pick controversial because it's got Virus on the cover, and Virus turned out to be, at least so far in the story, sort of a letdown character. Simply by the fact that, made this beautiful appearance, everybody got looks really cool, has a great look, and then after like 3 issues is like torn out of the armor, and we don't know if it's ever coming back or anything else. But that shouldn't disqualify a cover from being a top cover. And there were a lot of various ones. The Tyler Kirkham Venom 27, which used a similar color palette. There's a couple other Greg Horn on his Venom 25 had a wonderful Virus cover that was an homage to an old Iron Man cover with War Machine. Those were all honorable mentions here, but this cover to me, when I look at it, just find it striking. It jumps in my face. It intrigues me. I'm going to go, who is this character? What's going on in here? He's got a great look. The coloring in the background, the way it complements. This is why, I do like Virgin covers a lot. When it came to this book, I chose to go with the trade and did not chase the versions or the other limited variants because the color choice I thought of the green background went better with the armor and everything on this the picture that's going here on this cover. So this cover I find very attractive, very interesting. It drew me in. That's why it's number 14. Coming up at number 13, Strange Academy makes the list. Now, there's again, Strange Academy is another one of these books that had a lot of great covers, especially some of the variants that have been out there, including the Peach Momokos, everything else. But every once in a while, there's a cover that would come out, and when I would see that it's out, I just go, I have to go get that cover. That is flippin' amazing. And this is one of those covers. The Jay Anceletto retailer exclusive Virgin variant. So this is a unknown comics slash street level hero slash I forget who their third partner is book that was available in a trade and in this Virgin. And I just thought that, again, the way that Doctor Strange is standing out there, the color schemes, it just looks gorgeous. And let's be honest, I like these Virgin covers. They do like this. That gives me plenty of space down the line if I want to go in and get a signature or a remark or something on there. There's plenty of room for it. But this is just a great book. Jay hit it out of the park on this one. Switching it up to number 12. Ji Hung Lee makes the list again with his Amazing Spider-Man number 48. Now, Ji Hung Lee did a trilogy of these on ASM 47, 48, and 50. Originally, it was slated for 49, but the publishing issues, everything else got delayed, so it came out for 50. So 47, 48, and 50. It was a trio of Spider-Gwen covers. This one, 48, I thought was a little bit more the strongest of the three. I kind of dug it or something just kind of interesting about this idea of here's this Spider-Gwen, because remember we're talking about a girl who's supposed to be a very young teenager slash young adult, right? And so with that, the age gets a little confusing because at times they talk about her being, in college, so you'd think that she's an adult, but then she's affected by this youth thing in the Marvel not being able to be a superhero crap. So, whatever. Point is, she's very young. So, the fact that she's tied, even though she's out being a superhero, she's tied to her electronics and checking her playlist and all this other stuff. And we know that she's big into her music stuff too. I just thought it was kind of a neat, interesting kind of cover. Knocks out of the park. I love the way that he draws Gwen Stacy, or Spider Gwen. He does not overly sexualize her, which I find it's kind of odd. I watch some of the pushback from other people about some of the covers and go, "Oh, she's not. She's too flat chested and all this other stuff." It's like, dude, what is wrong with you? You're talking about, first of all, you're talking about a comic book cover character, A, and B, you're talking about one who's like a teenager at that. So there's something wrong with you if your biggest issue, I think, is that her costume's not revealing enough, or that her bosom's not enhanced enough, or disproportionate enough, or anything else. Beauty doesn't have to be sexual beauty, and I just find this cover very striking. Excellent cover, Ji Hung Lee. Good job, man. Coming up number 11, we get a DC book making the list here. Detective Comics 1019, the Lee Bermeo cardstock cover. Now, I will tell you, as a Batman, well, across most of the DC comics, whether it be the Justice League books, whether it's Batman books, I don't know about the Superman books. I don't read that any of those. The League of Superheroes, whatever it is, I can't remember the name. Anyways, whatever book it is, the B cover on DC has been generally this year phenomenal. The artists they've come in with, the minimal trade, the artwork has been gorgeous. It's tough to decide who getting one of these on this book, but what made this cover pop on this was simply the fact that here is Batman. If I'm just trying to convey the classic imagery of Batman, here we go. We've got the bat signal up in the sky. We have amongst the tall buildings, and here comes Batman dropping down from the sky in full cape extension, in full bat mode, coming down to the criminals below. This sings Batman right here. So from a standpoint, excuse me, from a standpoint of not only being a beautiful piece of art, looking at the textures, the wrinkles, the material, and all this different stuff, but to bring the classic imagery when I pick up this book and I know this is Batman, period. Knocks it out of the park. I'm tired of saying knock it out of the park. All right, Peach Momoko makes a list here at number 10, Star Wars Adventures number 32. This book was a retailer exclusive, featuring Rey on the cover. Peach Momoko, of course, lots of books this year. Was cover artist extraordinaire. Seemed like every time you turned around, there was a Peach Momoko cover coming out, and several of them became very high value collector's items people wanted to have in their collection. This book was one of those, especially exacerbated by the fact that not only was it a retailer exclusive, so there was only so many of them around, but when the book was originally published by IDW, the book lot was completely and utterly damaged. So those had to be scrapped and destroyed, and an entire new batch had to be published and printed again. So the delay on this book being printed was such that, Star Wars Adventures 32 had actually been out for quite some time, might even have been 2019, before this book actually came out and was released and published this summer. So, but the Peach Momoko cover now it's not as unique. I'm starting to see some other artists start to emulate it based on her popularity. But as she's a Japanese watercolorist, actually her background's in horror stuff. But we see her here just paint just a beautiful ray amongst the living forest. It's striking. It's different than a lot of the covers that we get, and it's just beautiful to me. So it makes number 10 on the list. Number 9 on our list is a Mike Mayhew cover for X-Men number 10. This also was a retailer exclusive, featuring X-23 Virgin variant. There was a trade and a Virgin variant. This book, I want to say this was an Unknown Comics group, Street Level Hero group book. I actually acquired mine directly from Mike Mayhew. Some of you may have seen me. When I opened up my boxes and I had my Remark trade version, have heard that story about how it kind of got all kind of screwy, but that's okay. I got it in the end. It's a striking cover. I like a lot when we have a cover where there's a character and the background is nothing. These white backgrounds, they're horrible to try to keep the cover clean or to get a high grade. I understand all that. But when it just is, here is the characters. There's nothing else to hide, anything else. You can't hide some bad hair drawing or something else in the background, or you don't have some other weird stuff. Just sometimes it's just so striking. And here we have that classic Wolverine colors, the white, yellow, and blues. I'm sorry, the red, yellow, and blues jumping off against that white background. Laura Kinney just looks badass here, ready to go. Dig this cover. Again, here we go. At number 8, Frank Quietly, cardstock variant for Batman's Grave number 7. Here we have another white background, but this combines another element that I really, really like, and that is when we get these grayscale, either sketch covers or just covers where we don't have to put a bunch of color into it. And while those in the previous one we had the color was popping up, and that was what was so great about it, here the lack of color is what makes it so great. We really get to start to see some of the art elements that go into this painting that was done. Is you see the shading that was done on here, and really give, I think, sometimes the artist a chance to really scream. And when you go and you look at this and you go, look how the scruff on Bruce Wayne pops there underneath the cowl. I mean, and that makes sense. You go, here's a man who's probably not, he doesn't, he's waking up from sleeping all darn day, or maybe he's been working all day as Bruce Wayne, and then he's putting on this stuff and going out at night, and he's gonna be not worried about shaving or anything else, So just these little fine elements of the artwork that just pop off this page brings this guy here to number 8. All right, making our list for the third time, Ji-Hung Lee. Here's another one of what he's doing with Spider-Gwen covers. This was from Gwen Stacy number 2. Now, Gwen Stacy was a limited series, if you didn't pick up on it, that was supposed to kind of tell some more of the story of Gwen Stacy. Really had nothing to do with Spider-Gwen whatsoever, because it was the Gwen Stacy from Earth 616, what it was supposed to be about. It was a casualty of the pandemic. It started before the pandemic. During the pandemic, put everything on hold, and it just never came back. And eventually, I think Marvel finally just announced it's not happening. So whether or not the rest of the story comes available maybe as a trade at some point, that would be good to see. But issues 1 and 2 were released at least. Issue 2 here, Ji-Hung Lee knocked out 3 different covers. There was a trade variant masked, a Virgin version masked, and in this, the unmasked variant. So the masked variant and the unmasked variant simply is whether or not you can see Gwen Stacy's face in there. Do have all 3 covers, including one that's a remarked and signed Ji-Hung Lee cover, but this unmasked cover was the rarest of them all. It was highly coveted, and it reflects that in what its resale rate is on it for a title that really probably nobody cares about. It's an unfinished limited series. From a collector standpoint, that's probably not important. This is strictly a book that is collected based on cover alone. And here we go with the blurred background. The focus is fully on Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous color. The coloring in the background blends into the art itself. I haven't seen too many Ji-Hung Lee books that I don't like. So that's number 7. Number 6, another man who's knocking covers out this year, Shannon Mayer. I mean, it is tough to find a Shannon Mayer book that doesn't look amazing, and is really was difficult to only put one cover necessarily on this list. There's so many great covers. That it was really hard anytime I put an artist on more than once. But Shannon Mayer did a bunch of these with the X-Men and X-Force and such as they came out, these variant covers. X-Men number 4 with Mystique, I thought this one was the crowning achievement of them all. Just the character Mystique is a character that's really interesting to me to begin with, but again, here we have we take the color palette from the character and bring it into the background. But I don't know what else to say about it other than it's just a beautiful book. So, number 6. Number 5, Peach Momoko makes the list again here with Star Wars Adventures, The Clone Wars, Battle Tales, number 1. This is the highly sought after Yoda, Peach Momoko Yoda cover. Again, it's just the character, her style, kind of the unfinished aspect. We have just kind of like this. Here's this head shot slash bust kind of Yoda. The rest of his body just kind of disappears, is trailed off, and then here's some color splash stuff coming behind it. We don't have to finish the book or anything else, but it's a beautiful piece of art. That's what it is. It's just a piece of art. Number 4, Derek Chu on Batman number 99. This was a cover that made this list and made it as high as it is. Simply, Derek Chu banged out some beautiful work this year. But this one, for whatever reason, had just drew me in. Here's this character, Clown Hunter, who's, we're learning a little bit more about him at this point. He's pretty new in this thing. But this character, just, he's right here in your face on the boat, bat ready to go. I mean, that's the cover again. It's pulling me in. I want to pick up this book and say, who is this guy? What's going on? What's he doing in here? I want to read this book when I see this cover. At least me. Hence, the cover's doing its job, and it makes the number 4 spot on this list. Number 3, Adi Granoff released three different variants here, an A, B, and a C. A and B were color versions, A being a trade, B being the Virgin, and then C being this stunning black and white Virgin variant. Again, as stated before, the color one, it's not a white background. It has a colored background, which is great. But here we go to this white background with this black and white, the shading, everything else. To me, this just pops and allows your mind to truly explore some more of the damages and stuff to his costume on his cowl. You get to kind of see, you start looking at the other details when you're not distracted by the color, and you just really realize that this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous rendition of Wolverine, and for that reason, it's number 3 on my list. And we go in that same route here. Number 2, Peach Momoko released a bunch of sketch variants started to come out. And now, remember, she's a watercolorist. Has all her finished painting, all her finished art. But she started getting, at some point during this year, we started seeing some of these unfinished sketch variants start to come out. And I fell in love with these. And I think that these are some of the best pieces that she's come out with. Because unlike sketch covers, like when you pick up a Jim Lee sketch cover or that previous Wolverine sketch cover, sometimes they're called, because it's in black and white, it just hasn't been colored yet. They didn't let the colorists get to it. That's a finished drawing. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous, everything else. But there's something about say when you look at this and you see this is this is not a finished sketch drawing ready for the colorist. Here we have the lines underneath. You can see the shaping. You can see the center line drawn down the face. Here's where I'm going to draw the center line of the face. Here's where I'm going to do this. You can see the elements and the thought process that go into drawing this, the layers from an artistic standpoint. That makes these covers just beautiful. And this particular one, Venom number 27, is one of the best. This close-up look at Null, it's her main element. She comes from the horror genre originally in Japan. So to bring her into a character like Null, that's very much in her wheelhouse, this is just beautiful. All right, so who makes the number 1? That's the question. Well, the number 1 is kind of a cheat here. Remember, a cover is intended to sell comics. So number 1 is the Batman number 92 through 105, the 1 in 25 retailer incentive variants by Jorge Jimenez. Now, this is kind of a cheat. Like I said, it's not one book. It's a run of books here. But each one, and while neither one, not a single one of these, I think, is necessarily a gorgeous, amazing piece of artwork, um, like some of the previous ones here in the top 10. What this series of incentive variants did, though, was sell books. It was coupled up along with the Joker War run, which was great. And then we take each one having this separate 1 in 25 variant, which DC does not do a lot of ratio variants to begin with. But to put a ratio variant on every single book, in this series, and then going slightly beyond up to future state here, just was something that it did its job. I bought at least 2 copies of each and every one of these incentive covers. Some of them I have even more copies of. That's on top of having the A and the B cover. So, and from that aspect, for the stores wanted to sell these incentives. There was a lot of people collecting the incentives, wanted to collect a complete run, so they were buying more books in order to get the incentives. So from that aspect, this is got to be, from my aspect, the number one cover, quote unquote covers, for 2020. Again, not because of the art, but because they did their job. They sold the books. Now, they each have an artistic element to themselves, and, they're beautiful. I mean, with the exception of in the lower right corner there, the black and white version of Batman '82. Obviously, that was a one per store. There was a lot of hubbub about it. It didn't do anything to really help sell books because it was an after effect thank you, although it in itself did help a lot of comic book retailers because that book did sell for such a high amount that they were able to, comic book, your local LCS has been struggling this year. This has been a tough year, for sure, like it is for any small business. But when a DC or another publisher does something like this with these one per store variants that can help them out, sell it, they can sell for a higher value. That's good for them, good for the store to be able to kind of make up some of that. So that's my top 20 for 20. So who ends up becoming the artist of the year out of all this? Well, it's a toss-up for me between Peach Momoko and Ji Hung Lee. You see them both make the list, but ultimately I give the edge ever so slightly to Ji Hung Lee, just because again, both of them have put out books that I like everything that they did. At the end of the day, Ji Hung Lee is grabbing my attention while putting out stuff that's more similar to what the rest of the genre is putting out. So while Peach Momoko is grabbing my attention by doing something completely different, and that's great and almost wants to give you that edge because it's something different, the fact that for me that Ji Hung Lee is standing out amongst everybody else who's doing the same old thing, that puts him over the top this year on his covers for me. So that's my long rant. My top 20 of 20. Again, let me know down below what you thought. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of heat for my number one pick here with this 125, but that's fine. You go out and make it a great 2021. Be safe, be healthy, have a happy new year, and collect what you want to collect. Don't listen to anybody else, including myself, because I'm just a fat man with a fat stack of comics and a fat opinion. Thanks for watching.